My works take place in the future. I like to think of them as alien archaeology or field recordings from the future. This idea that the works I make are literally made several years from now and traveling back towards us and into the past, that makes me free somehow from the art world a little bit and from writing poetry as I'm maybe expected to. I'm interested in non-human narratives, the stories of plants, animals, artificial intelligence. This work you see here is one of the first works I did that combines language and nature. When you see it from above, you see nested in layers the handwritten notes of a botanist on another planet in the future. And on top of these notes has a plant mutated, and this very plant is described by the botanist as the first extraterrestrial species met by humanity. So the work becomes, in that sense, a sort of erasure poem, a meeting of plant life and humanity, and the text that you can read in between tell the story of how we interact with other species, now and in the years to come. Every night, semi leaves a shadow of a light, a primordial fall. The dragon's breath smells like nights when suburbs, now was it looks up for voices. Night semi of the chest of the primordial first fall down, something hand circled and nearly when voices, storms. Down, holy when they landmarks careless up voices, storms other. So this is the evolution work. It's a collaboration with Håkan Jonsson. It's an AI of sorts, an algorithm-based work designed to replace me as a writer and artist. Let me read a little bit from the introduction. Evolution is an online artwork in progress designed to emulate the text and music of Johannes, Helde, with the ultimate goal of passing the imitation game test, as proposed by Alan Turing in 1951. With evolution, we aim to examine and dissect the role of the author. When new poetry that resembles the work of the original author is created or presented through an algorithm, is it possible to make the distinction between author and programmer? This work marks the end of Johannes Helde writing poetry. He has, in a sense, been replaced. So, evolution. I like to think of it as a successful failure, a work in progress. This is an online work that constantly generates this stream of poetry, trying to replace me. And I've been watching this for so many hours. And funny enough, after a certain number of generations or beats, meaning when a word is left out or replaced by the algorithm, I find that it's better than me. It combines syntax and words that I wouldn't combine when writing my own poetry, especially when left overnight. I find it fascinating to look at it in the morning. And for me, so many questions arose from this work, as in what is the point of having a style, or what does it mean to have a style? Am I the best judge of my own style? We found out pretty quickly by writing rules for this work, for the algorithm, that if we wrote too many rules, it would write my books from beginning to end, as they are. And if we write too few rules, the nonsense factor of the poetry is very high, constantly. And one more thing. For some unknown reason, I have written the words Toyota Land Cruiser in a poem. I still have no idea why. And strangely enough, the algorithm took a liking to that. And it kept popping up all the time, not making any sense like statistically because it's only in one place in my books. So in the end, we had to write a specific rule saying, no more Toyota Land Cruiser. And on to this next work. This is called Encyclopedia. It's also an algorithm-based work. It's using a data set of real animal species and creating new fictive animal species from the descriptions. These are then printed in retro-style index cards and given away to the audience. And each card is only printed once. And the PDF that the algorithm generates is deleted afterwards. This means when you receive the card, you become the caretaker of the species. And if you lose it, that species is lost forever. Their coloration was extraordinarily vibrant. They ate all kinds of plants, grass, wildflowers, blackberries, buds and leaves from trees and bushes. A habitat requirement was the placement of suitably secluded den locations, which could consist of caves, large hollow trees, or dense vegetation. The dens could be vast and could sometimes accommodate multiple families. The young were carried on their mother's back, very well camouflaged. Habitat fragmentation as a result of forestry, urbanization, and agriculture was a major threat. Made extinct by humans, 2188 AD. Coloration was a dark green to amber color on the dorsal side of the body and white on the ventral side. During late summer, the den was cleaned and the nesting chamber filled with bedding. They were fast and agile in the trees, allowing them to escape predators among the branches and underbrush of the forest. They were an arboreal feeder, foraging on flowers and fruit. Their songs were intricate, with up to 9 musical themes. They would sometimes socially groom. They were reluctant to cross open ground and were consequently vulnerable to local extinctions when woodland was lost. Made extinct by humans, 2103 AD. They were gray or bronze on the upper surface of the body and white underneath. They primarily inhabited large floodplains. Hawthorn flowers were an important food in the spring, and the fruit was eaten occasionally. Their signature whistle gave the location and emotional state of each individual. They had an extra sense which enabled them to detect the electromagnetic field emitted by the movement of living animals. They were threatened by loss and fragmentation of habitat. Made extinct by humans, 2067 AD. So what you get here in these examples are modified collages. It could be a mix of badger, blue whale, dragonfly. And finally, I will read from the astroecology book, Hybrid Project. This book deals with a personal loss, the death of my father, and how that, in my mind, interacts, or I'm trying to connect that to more vast questions like existence, the universe, the extinction of species. And it all takes place in the garden of my mother, how it is slowly overgrown, always with the gentle sound of rain in the background. The rain came quickly. Afterwards, moths swarmed the algae-covered lamp above the terrace. In the animated movie Princess Mononoke, plants glow in the footprints of the nature spirits. One breath later, they wither and dissolve. The sound of water drops striking the leaves. Entropy. So the rain is transformed into a distant roaring. And on October 10, 2011, a 24-hour-long clip of the engine sound from the fictional starship USS Enterprise was uploaded to YouTube. The full designation of the ship is USS Enterprise NCC 1701D. By May 25, 2015, the clip had been viewed over 2 million times. Safety, well-lit rooms, someone always awake, a heart beats. And one exhalation later, the illuminated trail, 8:30 p.m. Low cloud cover, no stars, high levels of oxygen. The few intact light bulbs dimmed by thousands of water drops. Sections passing through the swamp flooded. The water could be waist deep with the next step. The number of exoplanets in the Milky Way is estimated at 400 billion. Of these, 17 billion have Earth-like characteristics. When Ursula Le Guin in The Farthest Shore describes the distance between islands, does she mean life? A silent green explosion in space, unpredictable glow, complex information, a leaf in the wind, in the darkness. Passing through the islands of light, the shadow of the insect in front of the window, the outline of the planets in front of the sun. Pulled up the hood, forced myself not to remove the headphones, looked over my shoulder several times. The lamps swaying in the wind, leading back into the trees. Over the course of several years, the asparagus plot transforms, covered by weeds, turning into meadow, into brushwood, the beginnings of a forest, the slow rush of vegetation up towards the garage. So the clouds came closer to the ground. And if something were to approach, the panic lights above the lawn leak into the fields and the trees. Every animal stops in its tracks, eyes reflecting light. And inside the house, mechanisms are activated, window guards lowered. I go down into the basement, through corridors, steel doors slamming shut behind me. a system of airlocks, all the way into the storeroom, into the crawl space. Wait. Watch the screens. 15 minutes, an hour. Then the locks start to give way one by one. The sound of steel bending. Shadows around the corner, preceded by tiny particles of light. By a smell of freshly cut grass. Rotting kelp. Fir tree forest warmed by sunlight, and that undertone of smoke and turpentine. Maybe it can be studied the way you study a previously unknown species. Something moves restlessly in the glass cage, swinging its tail. Light reflected in a pair of eyes. The constants shift. Return to the shadows. It moves in unpredictable ways, with a set of rules too complex or decentralized to take in. Or a novel about rooftop gardens. And it's raining, of course. Thank you.